Well, hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Galactic Astrology Podcast. My name is Ursula, and I'm joined today by the podcast co-host, Julia Balaz. Hi, Julia. Today we're so happy because yet another wonderful Quantum Soul Guidance Practitioner has been certified. So today we're here to celebrate Dee as she made it through this amazing gauntlet of varied information. So today we really want to hear your story, Dee. And so Julie and I will just say congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Welcome, Dee. I no longer do one-on-one sessions and I miss it. So for me, doing these podcasts with our certified practitioners, I'm so delighted to look at your charts and then hear your story and pull out whatever information comes through to me. It's like keeping me in the practice of diving into the amazingness of galactic astrology. So I'm excited what will come through today. You have some pretty powerful fixed stars alignments and supracosmic points. So can't wait to chat about that too. And of course, your story.
Thank you. I'm super excited that you do this because I think it's a great opportunity for people who haven't had a lot of exposure to be able to share their story and connect with you and your audience. So thank you for that.
And speaking of connections, we'll just call out that today, July 17th, 2023, we've sent a grounding cord into anchor in with Mother Earth to basically say, welcome new moon, so that we can plant beautiful ideas to inspire the collective. So Dee, as we usually begin, tell us your story about you, your growing up years, the spiritual path, and of course, how you found Julia.
Probably started my interest in reading about esoteric topics in my teens. I was about 16 when I started reading books about astrology, a little bit about witchcraft, just because I was curious. I didn't really think it was a path for me. I was in high school at the time and about to go to college to study art. And I always wanted to pursue art, but I was super interested in everything unknown, hidden, spiritual, probably my Scorpio moon. But we'd be at Friday night football games. I went to Penn State. I think I made it to half of a football game. Just wasn't interested, but I would sit on the sidelines and do everybody's horoscopes. And I was really into just the archetypes of the signs and how the sun and the moon go together. And I would study my friends over the years and I would forget people's names, but I would be like, you're a Leo, what's your name? So I knew that. And it was always important to me. It always was running in my head. Then I kind of put it aside for years. Was super interested in, extraterrestrial stuff. My mom, when I was still living at home as a kid, she said I had a huge alien poster on my door and she made a joke, she's very scientific, doesn't really know if she believes in that. But, she's like, yeah, I was a little disappointed when I had to walk out of my bedroom door and see a huge alien poster, blasting through my hallway. And it was always just, I loved it. Creeped me out though. I felt like I was being watched or, what if they're following me around? So I definitely had a lot of fear around this. And it was always something I was interested in, but it wasn't didn't seem like it was for me. I'm not psychic. I don't have any special abilities. I'm just an artist. So I tried to, I went to college, studied art, tried to pursue the starving artist thing. And my mom was the voice of realism. You're not gonna be able to pay the bills. And she was right. So I was living in her garage painting, trying to make a little bit of money, and I decided to listen and go back to school for teaching. So I taught art in a public school for 15 years. I love the experience. I love what it taught me, but it wasn't for me. And, I kept looking for other answers. How am I going to stop doing this? When am I going to be able to pursue something else? I know this isn't what, I'm meant to do. I went to many psychics over the years, and every single one of them said, you're not meant to be a public school teacher. You're definitely, something else is coming. We don't know what it is. We don't know when. So I always knew there was something else, and I kept trying to figure out what that was. And then COVID hit, 2020. I hadn't gone through an awakening yet. I had skipped my Saturn return, and I didn't really pay attention to what was really happening in that spiritual world, again, other than reading about it. And interested in books on the topic. But COVID happened. The world shut down 3 weeks after my fourth child was born. And that was very overwhelming for me because everybody was home. I had a newborn, nursing a baby all day. I had my oldest now is 10, but then she was 6 and she was newly diagnosed with ADHD, and I had to homeschool her with a newborn. And my husband was now working from home, trying to, be on calls all day and have to deal with the noise and everything that was going on. So it was really a stressful time, and I wasn't sleeping. I got really sick. My mental health was just shutting down. And I said, wow, this is like going to be a breaking point. And I contacted one of my favorite psychic mediums at the time. Like, I just really felt like after I connected with her, it was almost like a therapy session. She told me again, you're meant to be an art channel, or you're psychic, you're a spiritual channel. I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, I can't. What is that? How do you do that? I don't know what you're talking about. So she said, just get a deck of oracle cards or tarot cards and see what happens. And I was like, oh, okay. So it was about August 2020. I started sleeping through the night. I said, all right, I'm going to start meditating. I had never done that before. So my path was I was getting all my lessons out of the way. My Saturn rising, my Capricorn rising was just like, okay, yeah, you have to get all the karma out of the way, and then this is going to open up. But it was filled with fear and all the hard stuff I really had to go through right off the bat. I started pulling the oracle cards, and stuff just started happening right away, or the point where I think it was to wake me up and say, this is real, this is what you're going to do, and it's not going to be something you can just ignore. Like, I was getting pictures on my phone that I didn't take, and I was hearing things and seeing stuff, like things moving across the room in the baby monitor. And I'm like, okay, someone is trying to get my attention, and I have to take this seriously. Like, I need to figure out what this is. So I kept on the path. I worked through all of the fears and everything that came up, which I know is a big part of this work. While this was going on, the first year I was working on that, and then I was painting again for the first time in 10 years, which I was told I needed to do, but I didn't want to. There was a huge block around it. I had to depend so much on readings and help from friends and other people that I started meeting in reading and psychic communities. People were giving me records readings, pointing me in the direction of where I was supposed to go. Like, you should study astrology. I'm like, why would I do that? I love it, but why would I do that? So I needed a lot of wake up calls and so much help from other people doing this kind of work to really get me on that path. It wasn't even something that came to me, probably because I was ignoring a lot of it. I decided to take my first astrology course. Was a traditional course. It was in the spring of 22. And it felt like I had done it before. I had the basic information about the archetypes, and but I didn't really understand aspects or, the layout of the natal wheel fully. And the teacher was like, as I progressed, I was catching it pretty quickly. And he was like, are you sure you're just a beginner? And I said, yeah, this is my first course. He said, you're more of a mid-level student. And I said, okay, great. And then I had a reading, and my friend tells me you were an astrologer in a past life. And I was like, that makes sense. And then I had another reading, and someone's telling me I was a shaman in a past life, and I had been drawn to that path. So I started in the fall of 2022 taking courses in shamanism. And it was funny because I had a reading when this whole path started, when I was questioning my own chart. I found someone on Etsy who was offering $15 readings. We can connect to your galactic heritage through this astrology reading, and it was basic. I mean, she said she had secret codes in the stars and would tell me my 3 main star family connections, and I was like, yes, sure. It happened to be 3 of the ones that I was very connected to, and I still see showing up in your chart, even though your chart obviously is so much more in depth and informative. It just was a sign to me that was wow, okay, so the stuff I had been feeling all along when this path opens is there. Whether or not this girl has legit knowledge of astrology and the fixed stars, it was making sense to me. So I was reading Barbara Handclau's book last summer, maybe, Astrology of the Kundalini Rising or something like that. I forget exactly the title, but in her book, she mentions galactic astrology, and I had never heard of it before, other than this girl on Etsy, and I didn't know there were courses, and, you're the pioneer here of this. But I said, wow, I'm going to Google that. I have to do this. So I did it, and I found your course right away. And I was like, I'm doing it. I have to do it. So I had barely finished the first shaman introduction class, and I'd already signed up for your class. And that's how it all started. And it's been so informative, and all the connections and things that I was, feeling before has just been validated through a lot of this coursework. And that's where I am now.
There are so many different paths we could take here, but I just want to highlight some information from your chart that is relevant to what you shared with us, because I feel through life examples, when we bring astrology into it, it's the best way to learn for any of our viewers that may feel excited about galactic astrology. So first and foremost, you have really powerful super galactic center conjunct within 1 degree, both to your Jupiter and Saturn in the 9th house. So the 9th house is house of higher education, higher life's philosophy, also becoming a teacher eventually, or being a teacher, or studying always with the purpose and desire to pass that knowledge on to someone else. When you really allow yourself to be a channel, allow the super galactic center bring information that is most relevant for your clients, it can be really, really surprising what kind of stuff comes in. And it can be perhaps very easy for you to tap into soul records, because supergalactic center acts like that quantum field of all that ever was, is, and will be. So have you found that, once you started working with people, that you kind of surprised yourself each and every time when you started tapping into soul records of what kind of stuff is coming through?
Yeah, and I sit there and I still feel like I have to write a lot of my readings, and I do feel like when I'm typing it up, I am starting to channel information that I say, is this going to make sense? And then you say it to them and they're like, oh, wow, someone else told me something like that, or that makes sense to everything I'm going through right now. So yeah, it does. And I get into this zone, or, I had to take some breaks because I would start to feel dizzy. Like I would be typing, and I need to get away from all the typing and do it more in, live on a call. Exactly where I'm like, okay, it's like so much channeling that I almost have to stop and ground and take a break.
Another really good alignment that you have there that really supports your path of a Quantum Soul Guidance Practitioner is Venus conjunct Sirius in the 7th house of relationships. So when you choose to give your attention to another in support of your close connection relationships, the Sirius, or the Syrian wisdom, ancient wisdom of all the sages and all that spiritual esoteric stuff that can come through. And perhaps you were fortunate enough to have several good friends in your life that were into esoterics and astrology, cards, psychic stuff, things like that. So that kind of like indicates past life connections to lifetimes when you devoted yourself to studying universal laws and spiritual teachings to support others. So that's beautiful there too for you. I was scrolling through your Instagram, which is kind of focused on art at the moment. Maybe one day we'll have another channel for galactic astrology readings, if that'll open up for you more. But you have such an incredible art there that is like loaded with kind of quantum information. Everyone will get something else out of them, like the one just behind you. But there is one in particular there. When you scroll further down, that is very much like channeled Syrian frequency. It's like Vedic blue beings, more kind of like Indian, Hindu.
I did that a long time ago, and I gave it to a friend.
I'm sure at that time you had no idea about your Syrian connection, but that coming through Venus, which is connected to art, like that's if anyone loves Syrian frequency and wants to connect to their Syrian family, like it's really, really stunning and full on Syrian codes there.
Thank you. I'm glad you picked up on that. That was an old one when I was I didn't know what I was doing there. But I do have some of the artwork, the more recent stuff on my website with the link to the older stuff, just because it's been a process and an evolution of where I'm going, where I'm headed.
One more note, if I may, and then I'll let Ursula to step in. But in connection to art and your love for art, We've spoken about this in our podcast before, that whenever we see Hades star connected in conjunction to people's planets, natal planets, there is strong inclination to art. And surprise, surprise, your Mars is conjunct Hades very tightly, and in fifth house. So fifth house is connected to our creative self-expression, but also house of children. And I find it fascinating that you became a teacher of art in school, teaching children art. Mm-hmm. So such an amazing manifestation and validation of that connection.
Mm-hmm. And having 4 kids.
That too.
So I'll just jump in too. It's this idea of, yes, artist, shaman, astrologer with a galactic focus, and mother and wife. You know, when you mentioned your own mom, this idea of ancestry really came up strongly in the energy that I was feeling from you, Dee. And, you know, I love the term art and spiritual channel, because when you say, I didn't know that I knew astrology to the level that my teacher was saying, oh, you're not a beginner, you're more intermediate. And I would just like to share with anyone listening that we're now in that photonic light belt. We're in a different space within the cosmos. And so you can jump in, let's say, to the metaphoric deep end of any spiritual practice that your heart feels passionate about. And you might surprise yourself that it no longer takes 10 years of study or even 5 years of in-depth study, that when you follow your heart's passion, and what I sense from you, Dee, is you were listening to, you know, a few people who just the synchronicities lined up. Instead of a therapist, you chose to go to having readings. And so you hold that space where sometimes it's not the content, but it's what keeps being underscored. And when you jump into the deep end, it's amazing how quickly you can float to the top with others who have studied for years. And in Julia's course, the Quantum Soul Guidance Practitioner, we're a beautiful group of several hundred from around the world, some of whom have never taken any astrology classes, but have chosen to follow the flow of energy of what feels good. They may come in with Reiki. They may come in with a love for crystals. So if anyone listening, if you limit yourself or edit yourself, oh, it'll take me years and I don't want to do that, I think, Dee, your story gives inspiration to go ahead and just try jumping in the deep end. Nothing to fear, because there's a lot of support around you, and you'll know quickly whether or not this is for you or not. So thank you for sharing. And it brings us now to present time and your beautiful website. Before I tip into that, I did read something in Julia's practitioner's information about you, Dee, what you mentioned, that there's a greater galactic goal here that seems to be bringing you along in this magnetic kind of flow of those super cosmic points that Julia mentioned before we began recording. It's for not just your own edification, but for the benefit of the planet. So in that kind of framework, we'll go check out your website, dlkevolve.com. And I think I forgot to mention that you are based in the United States on the East Coast. So here we go. Here's Dee's site. You're going to see art. You're going to see her story, her services. Right away, 1, 2, 3, astrology, shamanism, Reiki. And then I think there's more coming as well. This integration of the passionate and recent, right? But in some ways, tapping into that past lives, like you've already been here and it's just waking up within you, or allowing yourself to channel through. So let's say there wasn't a past life, but you're allowing yourself to channel through as an artist and a spiritual seeker messages for your future clients.
And I feel there's something to be said for the fact that I wasn't on this path until more recently. I know a lot of people, started awakening in, 2012, or, some people had this gift since they were younger. But I think it's definitely, I'll be attracting more clients who are, I'm just starting to go through this. What's happening? I was living my life one way. Now what's going on? And I notice I have friends too in my circle who were similar to me, like awakening around the same time, like always had an interest in, metaphysical stuff, but never really pursued it, or were, going through an awakening where you're living it through the way you're living your life.
Can you make a comment about the name of your website, though? DLK, which I assume are your initials, and then evolve. Is there that focus on evolution that's coming through as your main umbrella?
Yeah, it stood out to me over several books I've read. When we were evolving as a species, before this, it was more of a physical evolution, and now we're hitting this point of the next step. And I think it's more spiritual, and we really have to do that in order to get ourselves out of the kind of society we've been living in, with all the wars and greed and that kind of thing. So I feel like the next step is spiritual. We need to bring our spiritual level up to where we are technologically and intellectually.
I would like to ask you, when you worked with children for so many years, first in the classroom setting and now 4 children of your own, now, once you started paying attention to astrology and the cycles of the moon and all the other planets, can you validate for us through your experience that children behave according to certain cycles, like when closer to the full moon, they are more hyper or whatever that is? Have you noticed that?
Right, exactly. I wouldn't pay attention when I was a teacher to the full moon, but the kids would be really out of control. And then I would look and say, oh, it's a full moon, no wonder why. And same thing with my children. I always I feel a lot of, tension or anxiety building up. And it's also my inner state as well reflected there, but absolutely. And then last summer I was having, Mars was transiting my 5th house. So my kids there was a lot of tension there, and some other family issues that we were dealing with. So 100%.
Just, you've had extraordinary, hard to explain experiences, but you weave them all together, and now coming forward as a broad-based healer. That's what I'm sensing from you, an open channel that's really here to zoom and focus, because it seems like once you know who and what you are and why you're here, right, that's where that pathway to higher evolution or supporting others as we kind of come along. That's why I feel a very strong sense of family around you. I mean, like you, I have given birth to 4 children. I spaced them out a little bit more, but boy, it's a lot. And then to be home and working from home. So it's like almost that compression or that chaos time. As an artist that you've studied as well, that creative chaos to allow for something beautiful to be birthed. So I just want to honor and recognize where you are today, Dee, because those were some very specific choices you made. And it seems like when you answer the calling of your heart, even through the busyness of every daily life, things you've got to do between doctors and dentists and school and food, that you still chose to honor this pathway towards higher evolution for the greater good.
Right. Thank you. And that was always in the back of my mind, even when I started teaching, in my 20s. What is my higher calling? Like, what is my soul's highest path? This is helping me get there, but it's not where I'm supposed to be yet. So I always had that in my mind. And I think a lot of our limiting beliefs from, the collective on our family really comes in and says, oh, you can't do that, or that doesn't make sense, or, that's crazy. I really had to overcome a lot of that, which would be my message to help others. If there's something you feel like you should be doing, there's a way. It might not happen right away, but you really have to change your thought process and work with the universe in a different way than you might be used to.
As I reflect on some of the testimonials that I had a chance to read from your clients and the powerful influence you have on them, and then looking at your chart, I wonder if the Shapley attractor or supercluster conjunct your midheaven has anything to do with that, and also conjunct Sirma, fixed star in Virgo constellation. These are really, really powerful influencer sitting on your midheaven. And for any newbies to astrology, midheaven is a point in our astrology where we focus on a higher mission, our life's purpose, how we serve the world and how we show up in the world and the influence we have on the world. So for you, Dee, having those alignments there, I am really curious to see your journey unfold, because you're kind of just at the beginning of your journey when you're publicly claiming your ancient soul wisdom and desire to be of service to this world. And I feel that as you gain your experiences and amazing stories through your client sessions and the transformational experiences and quantum leaps of consciousness, that, maybe in time, there will be a beautiful body of work that you may be able to share. Not to put any pressure on you, but it seems to be like it's going to be a natural evolution for channel like yourself, almost like inevitable. So I hope you will be blessed with smooth sailing as much as possible, as you will tackle so many different things at the same time. But as we often speak about in our Quantum Soul Guidance course, the importance of managing our energy cycles and not to put too much on our shoulders. So I hope and trust that you will honor your well-being. And I'm sure you've learned this many times before, that when it's too much, you can't serve when the cup is empty. So would you say you're at a place now where you are paying better attention to the cycles and your well-being and your physical body's clues telling you to take it easier?
Yeah, it's hard. Summer is a good time for me to take a break because I have my kids home from school and the schedule is I don't have as much time. But when I was doing too much reading, it was like the headaches and feeling dizzy. And it's really important to stop and take a break and say, you know what, I can't do any readings for a week. I mean, I haven't done a reading in over a month. So it's just good to take a break and stop and exactly listen to your body and the cycles. And I can't say that I've always done that, because I would always be one to push, like, just keep going, get through it. But it's really important to, like you said, you can't help others when you're not feeling well yourself. So and definitely try to find joy in the present moment. And I know that's part of the North Node for me in Leo. Just even if I can't get to doing the reading or the painting or what it is I want to be doing, it's like I have to honor where I am now. And I have 4 little kids, and, I might be going to the amusement park today. Like, let's just have a good time. And that's also part of the same spiritual path. It doesn't have to be so focused on getting the reading done or mastering my to-do list, which has always been hard.
I'm sensing that there's this galactic channel that's coming through you. So anyone listening that would like to sign up for a session with Dee, this idea of a galactic channel. So on the timeline of busyness, motherhood plus, it's like this idea that, wow, when things come through, it is just something that is specific to your open abilities and the lens that you share through the eye of a shaman, one who goes into the realms and the other worlds, artist who explores visually with working with various medium, and astrologer connecting with the star stories. I would just like to pause as we talk about the future now. You've chosen a mandala behind you of 4 butterflies and 4 tortoise. Now, the totem of tortoise and butterfly together, I just sense that this is the pathway, or these might be some of the guides that will be working with you as people sign up for readings. Could you add a little bit to this conversation, Dee, about the chosen totems of turtle and butterfly?
Well, to be honest, that I liked because it had a muted color palette and it wasn't so bright and busy as some of my other paintings and work. And I think it's just fit well with, me sitting here. But I do like the imagery of the butterfly. It was actually for another client. This was channeled for her. I do like the image of the butterfly representing transformation, new beginnings, and the beauty of, the butterfly. And again, the turtle, taking it slow, not having to race to get anywhere. For me, that is a huge, really, I needed to learn that. I'm still learning it, and I don't think it's something I'm going to, no, I feel like this whole lifetime will be a lesson of slowing down. And the butterfly too, just my desire to help others transform in this whole process, what it's all really about. And again, I don't really know exactly where it's taking me. I know my 3 interests right now, shamanism, astrology, and the art channeling. But I do think there's something really soon coming together, and how it's going to play out more specifically in terms of like how I'm helping others heal, and what I'm channeling, and the whole process is coming to me. But I don't know exactly what it is yet, if that makes sense. So I'm now just living day by day, which I would have never done before. So for anyone who's afraid to do that, it's just say, I'm getting this hint, this is something, and even if it's from a reading, or then you scroll on Instagram and you see a picture and it's like, oh, that's coming to me again. Follow those little things and desires. Again, follow your heart, and also the signs and synchronicities, because it will lead you somewhere, and it doesn't always have to make sense. You don't always have to know where you're going. I feel like most people don't. I mean, I'm sure, Julia, when you were starting doing your hypnosis sessions, you didn't know you were going to end up where you are now, and look how amazing it has been for you. Hopefully.
Absolutely. That's a really, really awesome message to include in the closing. I just want to slide in a little astrology information. So you have Jupiter, Saturn conjunct. I've mentioned that before. And what you're describing there, the way you experience life, that seemed to be a very strong pattern with anyone that has Saturn and Jupiter quite close to each other. It means that you have this really strong desire for expansion, but Saturn is always there at the back of it, holding you back, where you expand rapidly and then you have to do the nitty-gritty and the carry water, chop wood stuff. So it's like constantly, like the expansion is almost attached to always acknowledging also the everyday, most mundane moments. Like we cannot just live in the amazing heightened state of bliss. We have to also learn to love the everyday moments. So it's like your theme, and perhaps your teaching too for others,
Oh, 100%. I know a lot. I've heard a lot of healers say, work with me. You'll be rich. You'll be on your path to ascension. that kind of, you can manifest anything. You don't have to, it doesn't have to be hard. I still have this balanced view of some of it will be hard. Like you can't just fly through. I mean, I think your mindset changes and you can make it easier than it could have been harder, but definitely a balance of expansion and doing the work. It's not going to just happen overnight. And I definitely, with the Jupiter and Saturn conjunction, felt that through my earlier years, I lived Saturn. I mean, it was like I was Saturn, and now I'm becoming more Jupiter. So I'm hoping I can also say it's balancing out that way. A lot of people say after your Saturn return, that can happen with, prominent Saturn placement. But for me, 100%, I was Saturn, and now I'm hoping to be Jupiter, but I now have to balance.
Beautiful.
Which is good.
I appreciate your wonderful honesty. There's a refreshing frankness about you that it's just what it is.
Right.
So when you mentioned, like, this girl on Etsy saying, I'm going to tell you your top 3 stars, sometimes spirit shows up that way as the newspaper horoscope, keep reading, or someone else will then just mention something out of the blue that you go, oh, that's hilarious. So it doesn't always have to be serious study, but to just like honestly go, I didn't choose this for a reason, my background, but I'm looking at it going, of course, the turtle, of course, that connection to Lyra and the stringed instrument that Hermes or Mercury created to get this attunement going. So yes, transformation. And I see the turtle as, yes, ancient totem, but also attunement and connection to Lyra. So it's funny how you're so beautifully honest. And I think anyone wanting a session with you will receive that type of frankness. Like, let's just talk straight. There's no fluff here, no puffery. But I do have a question for you. I would love to know, knowing our class, there's just we're all at various levels, and the course content is amazing and multi-layered. Do you, Dee, have a message for our classmates in the practitioners program?
I think it is so much information it's like such a high, you can't put a price tag on it. It was an amazing course. It taught me so much. I didn't know when I was getting into it that it wasn't just about the fixed stars. It was, how to protect yourself, the womb healing, the ancestral healing that's recommended, a lot of, learning dowsing, using the pendulum, connecting to the record. So it is such a comprehensive course. It goes way more in detail and depth than I think a lot of courses would. And there are times where it feels overwhelming, and it's just, whoa, how am I going to make these connections? How am I ever going to put it all together? And it's just, there's a learning process. Take it slowly, step by step. When you get overwhelmed, take a break. Just know that it will come together, and everybody has to go at their own, pace. And sometimes if you're narrowing in too much on something, like I'll get stuck on one, connection. Oh, what does this mean? I can't figure it out. I stop and I go chop the wood, do the dishes. Like, then it comes to me. So sometimes you just have to get away from it and come back again. And, whether it's a 10-minute break or a 2-week break, again, that's needed. So it's amazing information, and a lot of it, you don't think you're channeling. At least I don't. I'm not one of those people that's like, whoa, everything's coming to me. I'm like, when people say I'm getting a download, I'm like, wait, I'm imagining like some alien showing up and talking to me directly, telling me a story. And it's not always that way. It might be like insight out of nowhere, and that you just think is your own thought. So sometimes the download is a little more subtle, and it's still coming from the same source. You just might not recognize it as such. So just trust the process, and that, the guidance is coming, even if it sounds like your own voice.
Really well said. Thank you so much for that. I love it. So excited for you, Dee. Really well done. And
thank you.
We will. I subscribed to both to your channel, so we'll keep an eye on any inspirational stories or any insights from some of your readings, if you ever get permission to share. But
thank you. Yeah, I'm still working on exactly the next step I'm taking with that. Like, I'm doing the readings. I just I don't know how I want to share yet. Am I going to do YouTube or So I'm waiting for the
okay.
signs.
Even if it's in a year time, it'll fly by so fast. If
right.
time comes, you will just. Usually, for me, it comes with. I feel really excited about sharing something. If that excitement about to share something is not there, I highly recommend to everyone else, just don't do it, because you're just going to push against the current, and there'll be no views anyway. But if you feel really excited and you can't stop thinking about, actually, the world needs to know and hear this. When you have that and you follow that, then magic happens. So whenever that comes, we'll be waiting and cheering for you. Yeah.
We're so happy for you. Congratulations, Dee. And go check out her website, dlkevolve.com. Till next time, ladies, we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye for now.